It's preparing. Okay, you're good. We're streaming and we're recording.
Great, Sharon. Thank you very much, and welcome everybody to the May 6th, 2020 meeting of the Danbury Planning Commission. This meeting represents our second virtual meeting using Zoom. Our first one was successful, and we are all cautiously optimistic that this one will be as well. However, we reserve the right to slow down due to technical difficulties. Just a couple of housekeeping things before we get started, since this technology is all still fairly new to us. There's a couple of different ways for the public to access this meeting, anyone to access the meeting, participants, applicants, and the public. First, and all of these different ways of accessing the meeting are available, and instructions appear on the City of Danbury's website. First, if you prefer, anyone that wants to participate in the meeting can just call in. You can simply call a phone number and you can hear the audio to the meeting. You can't see all the displays and all the exhibits, but you'll at least be able to listen in and hear what's going on. And if you choose that option, we do ask that you put your phone on mute the entire time that that you are listening. The second option is to participate via Zoom, the way we are all doing right now. The advantage to that is not only do you hear the audio, but you see the video as well. You get to see the speakers, and of course, anything the applicant puts out in the way of a display or a document, you get to see those too. And again, all of those methods of communicating or joining the meeting and all of the various reports and displays and maps and everything else are all right on that website. And if anyone were to need instructions on how to do that, you just can't figure it out going to the City of Danbury's website, I'm sure staff would be more than happy to help you. We're going to follow our agenda as we always do, just a normal course of business. We're not going to deviate from that. We don't have any new public hearings this evening, but we do have a couple of continuations, and we're going to try to follow the same format that we have followed last time. For each application, we'll first let the applicant do their presentation. After I ask them to do so, that will be the first thing we hear. If any member of the commission has a question, use the raise hand function on Zoom, and Sharon will call on you. She will see that you've done so. So the applicant will go first. After that is done and the questions are asked, I will allow the commission members to discuss the issue or to ask questions. And then thirdly, we'll allow the public to participate. And again, if you're on Zoom, use the raise hand function. If you're calling in, you'll have to just speak up, unmute yourself and speak up, and Sharon will call on you as well. And just a reminder to the commission members, all votes will be taken via a roll call vote. And I'd also ask one more thing that we didn't do last time. If you make a motion or a second, please state your name first and then make the motion. Okay, so this is Bob Chiocchio, motion to approve, whatever the case may be. It was a little tricky for Joanne to do the minutes without that happening. So please, if you can remember to do that, that would be very helpful. I think that's it in terms of housekeeping, other than please be patient. Just because we had one successful meeting on Zoom does not make us experts. So please, if any technical difficulties come along, please be patient. We'll work them out as quickly as we can. With that said, we will move right to our agenda for this evening. I'll open with the roll call. Mr. Urice is absent. Ms. Hofstetter.
Here.
Mr. Chiocchio.
Here.
Mr. Sylvain.
Here.
Mr. Renz, absent. Mr. Haas,
Here.
and Chairman Finaldi is here. Mr. Haas, would you sit in this evening for Mr. Urice, please?
Yes.
Thank you. First item on our agenda is the acceptance of the minutes, April 15th, 2020. The minutes were previously distributed. Unless there's any corrections or discussion, I'll entertain a motion to accept those minutes. And again, state your name first, then your motion.
Perry Salvain, I'd like to make a motion to accept last month's minutes from, sorry, what was the date? I apologize. April 15th, thank you.
Bob
Motion made, do I hear a
Kiocchio,
second?
I'll second that, Bob Kiocchio.
Thank you very much. Motion made by Mr. Sylvain, seconded by Mr. Kiocchio. Any further discussion? Hearing none, just to warm up, I'll take a roll call vote. A yes is to approve the minutes, a no is to not approve the minutes. Ms. Hofstadter,
Yes.
Mr. Kiocchio,
Yes,
Mr. Sylvain,
Yes,
Mr. Haas,
Yes.
and the chair votes yes, the minutes are approved. For the record, our next regular meeting is scheduled for May 20th, 2 weeks from today. At this point, it appears that's going to be a virtual meeting as well. In fact, I think that's a pretty safe bet, but that will be confirmed prior to the date of that meeting. This evening, we have no new public hearings, so we will move right to our continuation of public hearings agenda. Item 1, Juliana Lunetta, trustee, application for 2-lot re-subdivision, 1.288 acres, 41 Golden Hill Road, H11130, subdivision number 20-01. Commission members, as you may have noted from the agenda, the applicant has requested that we continue this public hearing till May 20th. Do I need a motion, Jen, to continue this?
Yes.
Okay, so if somebody could make a motion in a second to continue this matter, we can move on.
I'll make a motion to continue the hearing and move on.
And that was,
Kevin Haas.
okay. Motion made, do I hear a second?
second, Bob Kiocchio.
Thank you. There has been a motion made and seconded to continue the public hearing for Juliana Lunetta until our next meeting. Any discussion? Hearing none, I will take again a roll call vote. Sorry to do this, but it helps us to stay organized. Again, a yes is to continue, a no is not to continue. Ms. Hofstadter,
Yes.
Mr. Kiocchio,
Yes,
Mr. Sylvain,
yes,
Mr. Haas,
Yes.
and the chairman Finaldi votes yes. So this matter will be continued until our next meeting. Item 2 under continuation of public hearings, AL Real Estate Holdings LLC. Application for special exception site plan approval for warehouse and distribution facility, Los Taco Auto Parts in the IL 40 zone, 94 Triangle Street, J14276, special exception number 775. The public hearing, ladies and gentlemen, was open during our last meeting. Jennifer did distribute some additional information during the week. I hope everybody got that. If not, please see Jen. And with that said, is there anyone wishing to speak in favor of this application?
Yes, for the record, Benjamin Dodo. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
I'm here tonight representing the applicant. Los Tacos are the contract purchasers of the property. I think all of the commission members, from my memory, were here at the last meeting, so I'm not going to repeat anything unless you would like me to. I will just make the presentation on what's changed in our responses since then.
That's fine.
May I be able to share stuff, Sharon? Please?
Go ahead.
Oh.
Yep, I'm here. Go ahead, Ben. You should
Oh,
be able to.
Okay, thank you. I want to make sure everybody could see that.
looks good.
Okay, great. 'Cause I had some trouble last time. Again, with me tonight are Joe and Paul Listacco. This is a reuse of an existing warehouse building. The reason we're in front of you is we're changing it to warehouse distribution for the Listaco Auto Parts business. After the last meeting, I went over most of the comments from city staff. There was, at the last meeting, we had received some comments from Abdul Muhammad related to traffic the day of the meeting. So I was able to go over those verbally, and which was the 15th, our last public hearing. And on the 21st, under cover of a letter, I submitted some revised drawings and addressed all the outstanding comments, including the ones received from Abdul on the 15th. So since then, and I'm not going to go over all the comments in detail, but just in response to Rob Barone's comments, we addressed them all and agreed with them. He's had one subsequent comment on 5.4. He wants one note on the grading and utility plan changed from highway department to construction services. That doesn't impact the site plan. That's something that, we have no issue with. Kelly Green had a comment that we addressed. She has since signed off on it. Jennifer had 3 written and 1 verbal comments. At the last meeting, I went over them. We've addressed them all with respect to some additional painted islands here and here. We've added some one-way do not enter signs in this area, and we also removed a parking space from this area that we had. So we have addressed all of Jennifer's comments, and we had addressed all of Abdul's comments as well. But yesterday we received an email from Abdul basically repeating 2 of his comments. His comments were basically, let me go here. He had comment 1 and 2. And again, this was an email dated May 5th, 2020. Abdul keeps asking for us to narrow this driveway right here, the northerly driveway. As we had mentioned at the last meeting, this site currently has 2 driveways, southerly driveway and a northerly driveway. The southerly driveway, as we went on in the last meeting, and I'm not going to repeat myself, is sort of the main driveway. The neighbor has access to their site. We have our loading activities here. So we needed to widen this driveway slightly. Abdul doesn't seem to have a problem with us making a little wider. As our truck turning plans had shown, that is required. And we went over that in pretty good detail at the last meeting. His comment now has to do with the northerly driveway. He asks, his comment says it's not completely aligned with this aisle. And what he means by that is it's not this narrow, this driveway right here. And making that driveway that narrow will not serve our needs for the site. This driveway here, we wanted to, and he also asked if we could make it one way. This driveway, our intent on this driveway is to use it for employees when they make the local deliveries in the smaller vehicles. They can come, leave, and enter, and also for customers. They'll still have the ability to use this one, but this one is for the larger trucks. But at the same token, if a truck wants to use this driveway, and one of the commission members sort of asked it, if they came in, would they get in trouble or get stuck? I had prepared this plan today. Let's see. I learned how to hide my floating meeting controls that was blocking my access last time. So here we go. So this plan was submitted today. It was prepared today. It's called sheet 5, truck turning plan 2. And it basically shows this northerly driveway that if we have a truck that's coming from the north, coming from, downtown, not downtown Danbury, but say the direction of White Street, and they do choose not to come in this driveway, or they just happen to come in this driveway, you can see this driveway provides adequate width. Likewise, if a vehicle wanted to leave and didn't choose to use this driveway for a variety of reasons, they'd still have the ability to take a right out of this driveway. So our intent with this driveway, when you look at what it is today, this driveway today is 70 feet across with no controls. We're narrowing it down to about 40 feet. And also beefing up the island here, getting rid of this parking in the front. So we feel that it's very important to the site, and it's absolutely necessary to the site that we have this driveway the way it's designed. It wasn't done like this in any haphazard way. It was done to meet the needs of the site. Also, Abdul mentions, conflicts with the cars here. If you happen to see, we have a 32-foot driveway aisle here. So the city standard is 24. So we intentionally made this a little bigger, again, to make it a little more safe, make it a little less tight, yet still provide a defined driveway apron. Right there, what's there today. We didn't go in asking to keep exactly what is there today, which is this. We wanted to better define it. We knew when we had our pre-app with the city that they wanted some improvements along the frontage, and we feel we've done that. His second comment had to do with these painted on these end islands. And again, as we discussed at the last meeting, we went to the Zoning Board of Appeals to have the ability not to put curbed islands in these two spots. First of all, we needed it to comply with parking. We would have lost 4 parking spaces, and it would have also put some islands in an area that we really need circulation. As we had previously said, we're trying to create the loading to the side and the vehicle circulation here, but we do want the ability to go across the site. So as far as Abdul says we don't meet the zoning regs, well, that's why we got variances. And at the last meeting, Jennifer asked us to add this crosshatch, which we have done to the plans. So that's our answer to Abdul. We feel it's a vast improvement. And again, this driveway right here, we are making it smaller. This driveway currently is 70 feet wide, and we're reducing it significantly. So in our opinion, we're doing as best we can. And as you see by the truck turning plan, we need this width to accommodate the intended use of this site. If this site were an apartment building, it'd be a different story, and the driveway would be a lot smaller. But we do have trucks coming in here. It is a warehouse and distribution facility. So that being said, the only other comment came from Commissioner Urice. He had asked about the parking at Lestaco's existing facility down the road. That was asked sort of toward the end of the meeting. They have 30 dedicated parking spaces now at their place that's dedicated to their business. And they have the ability to share another 19 or so. But when I say share, that's with the other tenants over in the building. They have 30 dedicated to their business. We have 37 sites here, 37 spaces at this site. And mind you, at their other site where they currently are now, even those additional shared spaces that are shared with other businesses, they also have on occasion the DOT overflow, which is not permitted. It just happens with customers sometimes at the DOT. So we feel this is adequate for the proposed use. We meet the zoning regulations with respect to parking. And we feel, with the exception of just having a disagreement with Abdul, but I think, those truck turning plans, both of them that we've shown, really supports both the initial one for the southerly driveway, which is going to be the main driveway, and the subsequent one for this one. It shows that the driveway needs to be that. And if the driveway were narrower, you can actually have an instance when a truck would pull in, even if it, unintentionally wanted to go in that driveway, and then it gets stuck and has to back out. And that's something we don't want to have, especially on Triangle Street. So I'll be happy to answer any questions anyone has, but that's really the minor changes that we've made to the site.
Thank you, Ben. Commission members, any questions for Ben at this time? I still see, Sharon, I still see the illustration of the parking lot on my screen. Okay, we're fine.
Yeah.
All right, any questions for Ben at this time, commission members? Hearing none, I will ask, is there anyone else wishing to speak in favor of this application? Anyone else in favor? Anyone else wishing to speak in favor of this application? Is there anyone wishing to speak in opposition to this application? Anyone in opposition? Anyone wishing to speak in opposition to this application?
Just for the record, Mr. Chairman, everybody's unmuted. Kevin muted himself back, but I've unmuted
unmuted.
everybody. Just okay. So everybody's unmuted, so you could hear if somebody chimed in.
Okay. Okay, I've called the opposition. I've called in favor of. Commission members, any discussion or anything else anyone wants to comment on this application?
Helen.
Helen,
I just would want to know from Jennifer's viewpoint, if this is satisfactory to the planning department as being the final design.
Mr. Chairman, I've reviewed the plans. I've spoken to Ben a few times about Abdul's outstanding comments. And it's my opinion that it does certainly comply with zoning. The intent to improve those aprons. You know, we don't like those big open curb cuts. They have reduced it. They've made it more conforming. They've eliminated that front yard parking that, you know, is non-conforming. To go from 70 to 40 with two-way, it's a little larger than what we normally see, but they need it for the truck turning maneuvers. If not, what ends up happening if you reduce the throat of that apron, you're going to clip a car potentially that's trying to egress. So to allow that wider width certainly allows for options for trucks coming and going. And again, it's, you know, if this was a brand new site, it certainly would be designed differently, but it's an existing site, and it's the improvements, it's a vast improvement to the maneuverability of the site. And with respect to the landscape islands, they received a variance, and to handle those maneuvers where the islands would be, you know, Ben has added those the painted striping to control those movements, so you don't get parking spaces that kind of meander into the aisle width. So from staff's perspective, it does comply with zoning and meets the intent for maneuverability.
Thank you.
Any other comments from commission members at this time? I would just comment very briefly. I agree with what Jennifer said. I looked at Abdul's email today. It makes no mention of the right-of-way at all. So I'm assuming his silence on that issue confirms that he has no issues with the right-of-way. All of his comments are on internal sort of flow stuff on the site. And I'm okay with the width of the apron for the reasons that have already been spoken on, the truck turning issue. And I also am not in favor of putting islands back in when they took the trouble to get a variance to get those removed. So I'm okay with the site plan that Ben just submitted this evening. Anybody else?
Mr. Chairman, I would second those sentiments. Thank you.
Thanks, Perry. If there is nothing else, and Jennifer, I don't believe we're waiting for any departments on anything. I think we're in a position to close this public hearing, right?
That would be my recommendation.
Okay, with that said, I'll entertain a motion.
Helen, I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Motion made. Do I hear a second?
Perry, I'll second it.
Thank you. Motion made by Helen, seconded by Perry to close the public hearing. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. We will take a roll call vote. And again, a yes is to close the public hearing, a no is to not close the public hearing. Ms. Hofstadter,
Yes.
Mr. Kiokio,
yes,
Mr. Sylvain,
Yes.
Mr. Haas.
Yes.
Chairman Finaldi votes yes. This public hearing is closed. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
You're
Can you
welcome.
make, Mr. Chairman, can someone make a motion to move it for discussion?
Yes, I'll entertain a motion to move this to item 1 under our, no, we said item 1 or item 2, Jen? I'm sorry.
2.
Make a motion to move this to item 2 under our old business agenda. Do I hear a motion?
Helen,
I'll make a
so-
motion.
All right, whatever.
Who was it?
It's
Trying to
Kevin.
move it along.
Kevin.
I'll make a motion to move this under to number 2 under old business.
Thank you. And Helen, I believe, seconded that, Joanne.
Thank you.
Thanks.
In keeping with the way I'm doing it, a motion has been made and seconded to move this to item 2 on our old business agenda. I will take a roll call vote. A yes is to move it to item 2, a no is to not move it to item 2. Ms. Hostetter,
Yes.
Mr. Kiokio,
yes,
Mr. Sylvain,
Yes.
Mr. Haas,
Yes.
and Chairman Finaldi votes yes. This matter will appear as item 2 on our old business for discussion and possible action agenda. Okay, we're moving along, folks. And we find ourselves at our old business for discussion and possible action agenda. Item 1, Danbury Retail LLC, application for floodplain permit for Danbury Retail LLC, 81 Newtown Road, M11023, special exception 772. Jennifer.
Oh, hold on, sorry. Mr. Chairman, so you have the request for the floodplain permit for 81 Newtown Road. If you recall, this was recently approved by the commission on, I believe, the March 4th meeting. I'm going to share a couple things, if that's okay, Sharon. Let's see, hold on, oops, I have to, hold on a second. Okay, hold on, I'm sorry, I just wanna. Okay, so. Two things here, hold on. Okay, let's try this again, I apologize. There we go. Okay, so this is the actual floodplain. This is the firm panel from FEMA. You'll see this little, where's my little, hold on here. I annotate. Oh, so there it is. So right here, this little red dot, this is actually where Chili's is. The friendly site is right here. Can everyone see where my mouse is?
Yes.
Okay, so this is the existing building. As you can see, almost the entire site is within the floodplain. This right here, this red, this is the actual floodway. This is the Seal River up here. And as it crosses under the Newtown Road culvert behind, is that Marshall's? I think the liquor store back here, it becomes the Limestone Brook. We do see flooding through here. It's rare that it comes up this far as it's shown, but nonetheless, it is within the floodplain. You'll see this B line right here. This is the base flood elevation. We know this to be 292.3, which means a few things. So any filling below that, they have to compensate for, and it also means that their building has to be a foot above that base flood elevation. The in my staff report, it goes through, they are in fact above the base I'm sorry, the building is constructed a foot above the base flood, and they also have ground leading to ground above the base flood. I'm actually going to see if I can share the map. Okay, can everyone see the site plan?
Yes.
Yep.
yes,
Yep.
Okay, so if you recall, this line right here is this kind of curvy line. This is the floodplain by elevation. So everything in this area So any filling has to be compensated for. If you recall, one of the issues for the apron, because it was the existing condition, it's so steep, we wanted to level that off and to be able to get ADA compliance for the sidewalk, they had to fill, because there's quite a bit of a grade difference from the toe of the slope to the top of the apron. So that filling created a little bit of an issue, and it was a very precarious cut and fill balance. So ultimately they filled, I can't quite remember the number. They filled, hold on a second. I just want to go back up. They filled 335 fill, and then they removed 339 cubic yards. So a net gain of 4 cubic yards, which is basically a wash, which is exactly what we want. We don't want that number to be in the positive, because that's so they've compensated. So they can basically they comply with zoning, with the floodplain regulations. In the staff report to you, the conditions, standard conditions will want an elevation certificate. Any changes to the plan require them to come back to the planning commission, and then provide certified writing that the site complies with the floodplain permit. So other than that, I don't have anything further.
Questions for Jennifer, commission members? Unless there's any other discussion, and there's no questions for Jennifer, I'll entertain a motion to approve the floodplain permit for Danbury Retail LLC.
Barry, I'll make a motion to approve the floodplain permit for Danbury Retail LLC.
Motion made. Do I hear a second?
Helen.
Bob, I'll second.
Okay.
Helen first, right?
It's all right.
Okay.
Whatever.
We'll all take turns here. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Motion has been made and seconded to approve the floodplain permit. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none. Yet another roll call vote. A yes is to approve, a no is to not approve. Ms. Hofstadter,
Yes.
Mr. Kiokio,
Yes,
Mr. Sylvain,
Yes.
Mr. Haas,
Yes.
and Chairman Finaldi votes yes. The floodplain permit is approved. Thank you, Jennifer. Very thorough job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 2, under old business for discussion and possible action, is a public hearing we closed this evening. AL Real Estate Holdings LLC, application for special exception site plan approval for warehouse and distribution facility, Lestaco Auto Parts, in the IL 40 zone, 94 Triangle Street, J14276, special exception 775. And again, the public hearing was closed on May 6, 2020. The purpose is to give guidance to Jennifer to draft her resolution. Would anyone like to make a comment on this application?
Mr. Chairman, this is Bob. I'll start out.
Sure.
Generally, I'm okay with the application, as previously discussed. I'm fine with the aprons and the way it's laid out. I'm just a little, as you probably remember from my comments from last meeting, just a little bit concerned about the number of cars that'll be in the parking spaces and how full it will be when there's trucks coming in and other traffic going to as a retail customer or some of the smaller vehicles coming out. They say that there's sufficient spaces there, better laid out and probably less congested than the other store. But that's really my only concern here. But generally, I'm okay with the application.
Thank you, Mr. Kiokio. Anyone else wishing to comment?
Helen, I'll agree with Bob and his comments. It's tight. It's very tight. And I guess, the conflict is between the number of parking spaces needed and the and allowing for curbed, and aisle separators, whatever they're called. So it's very tight, but I think it would be an improvement in general to what's there right now. And I guess the only concern is maybe a car gets clipped, I guess, like Bob said. So, but I think all in all, the compromise hopefully will work well. So I'm okay with it.
Thank you, Helen. Anyone else? I'll just say that I'm in favor of approval as well. It is a tight site. I'm glad, I would assume that given the applicant is buying the building, that they have thought very long and hard about traffic and flow, and they know better than anybody how many cars potentially would use the site, and they've thought that through. And I think they have done the best they possibly could, given the constraints of the site. And again, I think the building is vacant right now, and as we talk about planning, vacant buildings are never the sign of a healthy economy. You want as few of those as possible. So I think Helen mentioned it's an improvement to the area, and I certainly agree with that. Anybody else?
Perry, I would say that I agree. I think it's definitely an improvement, and I would echo those comments as well, that they've done their homework and picked this site because they thought it would work for them, and I assume they can make it work. Thank you.
Thank you, Perry. Okay, Jennifer, I believe you have your guidance.
Thank you.
And we will therefore move to our referrals agenda. We've got a few items here. Item 1,
Thank you, everyone.
824. Thank you, everybody. Thanks, Ben. Everybody, thank you.
Thank you.
Item 1 on our referrals, 824 referral, April. City Council Agenda Item 5, Water and Sewer Extension Renewal, Great Plain Road. Jennifer.
Mr. Chairman, I'm actually going to share my staff report because one, it'll be easy for me to read it, and then the commission can see it as well.
Okay.
Okay, can everyone see that?
Yep.
Yep.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. So the first request, sewer and water extension renewal for Great Plain Road. This has been before the commission a few times for renewals in the past. The most recent one, October 2018. Again, it's the request for both the sewer main and the water main extension. If you recall, in those past referrals, we've asked that a condition be placed on those extensions to only serve no more than 63 single-family dwelling units. We echo that request in this staff report, and we ask that the commission include that same density restriction at 63 single-family dwelling units. Other than that, staff has no objection, provided you include that density restriction.
Okay. So thank you very much, Jennifer. Any questions for Jennifer?
Mr. Chairman, Bob?
Fire away, Bob.
Generally, how long do we let these things or keep extending these things? Are there any maximum timeframes that we allow it to? I guess the question would be, if we're not necessarily comfortable with what maybe the site plan is any longer, how does that work? Would they have to come back to us with a site plan for the 63 dwelling units, or how does that work? I know this is just, I guess, for the water extension. So is the site plan still valid, or is that something that needs to be discussed again?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
This is only for the sewer main extension and the water main extension for the renewal. Any development plans, they have not been submitted. The commission has not approved any of those development plans. This was their first step. Again, when you start working through these development projects, the first thing that you make sure you have is either well and septic or water and sewer. In this case, the first step was to get those extensions in place, and it's up to the applicant to then come in for those development plans. They've said I believe Attorney Marcus in his letter said because of the economy, the applicant has not come in for those development plans. You know, the renewal allows him an additional 18 months. Those continue. I don't know that there's a restriction that says that they, you know, this has been going, I think the first one started in 2014. So they just continue, and provided that city council grants those renewals, they will continue. And when they come up for extension, they'll ask for another renewal.
I just chime in for a second if I can, Mr. Chairman. I don't normally do this. I only just understand the process at city council. So one of the conditions on the extension is a time limitation, and that is why they keep having to come back. So there is, you know, it usually runs about 18 months, which is why they're back now. And they've just, from the first time they've got it, they've come back every 18 months to just keep that valid. So that's what this is. And Jen's right, they don't have a site plan or any development plan into planning at the moment.
Okay, thank you.
Commission members, any other questions for Jennifer or Sharon at this time? Okay, hearing none. Unless there's any discussion or objections, I'll entertain a motion. And again, as Jennifer requested, if your motion is to approve the extension, I would ask that you comment and include the density restrictions shown in the staff report. So I'll entertain a motion at this time. Would someone like to make a motion? Please.
All right.
Harry, I'll make a motion to approve the the extension, subject to the same density restriction of no more than 63 single-family dwelling units.
It's
Do I hear a
Kevin.
second?
I'll make a second.
And that's
That's Kevin.
Kevin.
Yep.
Motion made and seconded to approve the extension. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I will take a roll call vote. A yes is to approve the extension, a no is to not approve the extension. Ms. Hofstetter,
Yes.
Mr. Kiokio,
Yes,
Mr. Sylvain,
Yes.
Mr. Haas,
Yes.
and Chairman Finaldi votes yes. The extension receives an approval. We'll go right to the 824, on item 2 on referrals, 824, April City Council Agenda, item 6, sewer extension renewal, 3 Parker Street. Jennifer.
Mr. Chairman, 3 Parker Street, they received sewer main extension approval from Council May 2018. That actually expired a few months ago. They've put the request in. Staff has no objection to the renewal of the extension.
Thank you, Jennifer. Questions for Jennifer, commission members? Hearing none, I will entertain a motion to approve the extension.
Helen, I make a motion to approve the extension.
Do I hear a second?
Bob,
Please.
second.
Okay. Motion made and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none. Time for another one of those roll call votes. Keep everybody paying attention here. A yes is to approve the extension. A no is to not approve the extension. Ms. Hofstetter,
Yes.
Mr. Kiokio,
Yes,
Mr. Sylvain,
Yes.
Mr. Haas,
Yes.
and Chairman Finaldi votes yes. The extension is approved. And in case those last two weren't enough fun for everybody, we've got another water extension here. I know how everybody loves these. Okay, we're gonna go right to item 3, 824 referral, April City Council Agenda, item number 7, water extension renewal, 120, 128 Osborne Street and 9 and 17 Cleveland Street. Jennifer, you're on.
Mr. Chairman, so this renewal, again, for the water extension for 120 to 128 Osborne Street and Cleveland Street, this is Victorian, the project Victorian Meadows. They received city council approval for the water main extension October 2018. That's due to expire. If it hasn't already, I believe they got the request in March. So staff has no objection to the water main extension. The renewal, I'm sorry, the renewal of the water main extension.
Great. Questions for Jennifer?
Mr. Chairman, this is Bob.
Go ahead, Bob.
So just wondering why this is. So those places don't have city water now, or they do? What, I'm not understanding, I guess, why the water main extension, given that that property is already developed, or is it not the right property that I'm thinking about?
Mr. Chairman, this is, so the planning commission approved, I don't know, a year and a half ago, the extension. They actually did an additional development off of the back part of the existing Victorian Meadows. The property owner, Bob Botello, picked up some property on Cleveland Street, and he wrapped that that purchase into Victorian Meadows to expand that development. To be able to bring water onto the site, they're extending the main. It does already exist from Osborne Street, and it's looped through the site. And instead of looping it in dead end, creating a dead end situation of the water main as it comes towards the back of the property, the engineering department felt it best to bring the main, extend the main from Cleveland Street onto the site. And I believe there's a fire hydrant there as well. So they felt that that was the best way to serve water for that part of the development.
So
But
the
just
back,
to,
so the back part is not developed yet. That's to be developed, and that's what this is for, to extend to cover that and to basically connect it. I guess
Correct.
connect it all the way through.
I believe they're looping it from Cleveland Street. You know, I shouldn't say, I'm not entirely certain if they're looping it with the main that comes off of Osborne Street. But it does serve that portion, that back piece of the development. I'm not entirely certain if it's looping into that system or not.
Okay,
but this is, Arnie, I would, if it's what I'm thinking it is, those larger apartment buildings that were built on Osborne, Bob, if they're occupied, they've got to have city water and city sewer. There's no way, there's
Yeah,
a
that's
well
what-
for those buildings. There's just no way. They're
yeah,
too big.
that's what I thought, and that's why I was a little bit confused on this. So this is really extending the water main on Cleveland Street to service the back portion that's
The
to be
proposed,
developed.
yes, correct.
Yes.
The proposed development that the commission approved about a year and a half ago.
Yep.
Working through his permits right now. You know, again, you know, by the time he came up to apply for the permits, he was close to expiring for the 18 months. So he needed to do that to get the renewal in place so he can pull the permits for that water main extension.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Jennifer, commission members? Hearing none, I will entertain a motion for the renewal of the water extension.
Barry, I'll take another crack at this. I'll make a motion to approve the renewal of the water main extension
Well done.
for 128 Osborne Street and 9 and 17 Cleveland Street.
Very good. Perry, do I hear a second?
Bob, I'll second.
Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? All right, well, time for another roll call vote. A yes is to approve the renewal of the extension. A no is to not approve the renewal of the extension. Ms. Hofstadter,
Yes.
Mr. Kiokio,
Yes,
Mr. Sylvain,
Yes.
Mr. Haas,
Yes.
and Chairman Finaldi votes yes. This water extension, the renewal of the water extension rather, is approved. All right, that's it for water and sewer tonight, everybody. I've heard about enough of all I want to hear on that.
Extensions of extensions.
Yeah, that's about it.
Sometimes.
Okay, moving along. Item 4, 8-3A referral petition of BRT Wisconsin LLC to add 4.1 to the zoning regulations, create quote, active adult residential floating zone, AAR. Zoning Commission public hearing rescheduled to May 26, 2020. This item will be discussed at the May 20th, 2020 Planning Commission meeting. These dates are subject to change depending on circumstances related to COVID-19. Anything else, Sharon or Jennifer, or just wanted to comment? Okay, nothing?
No,
Okay.
we'll handle
item
it at the
five.
next meeting,
Okay. Item 5.
possibly,
A3.
possibly at the next meeting.
Okay, thank you. A3A referral petition for SC Ridge Owner LLC for a zone change from IL40 to PND and approval of Master Plan 100 Reserve Road, C16022. Zoning Commission public hearing scheduled for June 6, 2020. This item will be discussed at the June 3rd, 2020 Planning Commission meeting. These dates are subject to change depending on circumstances related to COVID-19.
That's June 9th, Arnie, not June 6th, June 9th.
Oh, my apologies, June 9th. There's also one item under new business, commission members, which you can take a look at. I'll read it. A3 referral petition of D&B Wellness, care of Compassionate Care Center of Connecticut, to amend sections 3C4, 5A2B, 5A5, 5B2B, 5B5 of the zoning regulations, medical marijuana dispensaries as special exception in the CG20 and CA80 zones. Zoning Commission public hearing scheduled for June 9th, 2020. This item will be discussed at the June 3rd, 2020 Planning Commission meeting. These dates are subject to change depending on circumstances related to COVID. And the final item on our agenda, Falcon Development Investment Company LLC application for floodplain permit, 138 Deer Hill Avenue and 12 George Street, I-15118 and I-15110, SP 20-04. Nothing under correspondence, other matters. Is there anything else, commission members? And if not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
This is Helen, so moved.
Motion made,
Bob
second.
second, Bob second.
Okay, motion made by Helen, seconded by Bob, to adjourn the meeting. Our last roll call, everybody. Here we go. One more time with a lot of feeling. Again, a yes vote is to adjourn, a no vote is to not adjourn. Ms. Hofstadter,
Yes.
Mr. Kiokio,
Yes.
Mr. Sylvain,
Yes.
Mr. Haas,
Yep.
and Chairman Finaldi votes yes. Again, thank you to everybody, particularly Sharon, Jennifer, Joanne, helped putting this virtual meeting together. Well done, everyone. Thanks very much.
Thank you, everyone.
Oh.